On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, the snow fell heavily. He said he wanted to call off the engagement. It took me a long time to suppress the bitterness in my heart, my slightly reddened eyes gazing into his vast, ocean-like ones. Today is my coming-of-age ceremony. Can't you give me even a little dignity? Ian, you know I've always regarded you as a sister. Let's make everything clear today, so that misunderstandings won't arise in the future and delay your life. At that moment, I knew that all these years of chasing after him had come to an end. The snow fell heavier and heavier, and I tucked my already frozen, reddened hands further into my sleeves. In that case, I must ask the third young master to return the betrothal papers. From now on, there should be no further ties between us. The next day, Uncle and Aunt Shu brought Shu Jingwen to our home. Just as I was about to go find my father, he sent someone to summon me. Before I even stepped into the front hall, I could hear Mrs. Shu's soft sobbing and my father's anger. Uncle's song, "A marriage arranged before birth is truly inadvisable. When my sister was young, we considered her dignity, but now that she has come of age, she should have her own destined match. Jingwen is of humble fortune and dares not aim too high. You unfilial son, you unfilial son." Uncle Shu has always been skilled at putting on a show. Father remained silent for a long time, his eyes filled with sorrow. In the hierarchy of scholars, farmers, artisans, and merchants, merchant families hold the lowest status in this capital city filled with distinguished families. I stepped into the front hall, and Mrs. Shu hurriedly grabbed my hand, choking up as she spoke. "Ah Yang, we have wronged you. From now on, you will be Jingwen's younger sister, and he will surely protect you." I didn't mind and casually agreed with a good. Seeing her relieved expression, I couldn't help but laugh. My father asked me with a cold expression, "Have you thought it through?" Yes. After exchanging the betrothal documents, my father immediately sent him away. As he was about to leave, I called out to Shu Jingwen and handed him the jewelry box he had given me yesterday. "This is the hairpin gift sent by the third young master. I have already accepted another one, so I will return this one to the third young master. From now on, there is no need for any further connection between our families." Ah Yang. In truth, I have always admired Shu Jingwen. Since I was old enough to understand, I knew he would one day become my husband, the person who would accompany me for the rest of my life. I still remember when I was 5 years old, my mother passed away while away from home. On that birthday, I sat alone outside the mansion, waiting and waiting, until the sky was filled with wind and snow, but my mother never returned home. 8-year-old Shu Jingwen appeared before me at that moment. He brushed past my eyes, wiped away my tears, and cupped my frost-bitten cheeks with his hands. Only after I had stopped crying did he carry me on his back and walk toward the mansion. On his back, I felt warmth for the first time. I remember, just before leaving, he placed that hibiscus jade pendant around my neck and said, "Yang, my dear sister, from now on, I will spend every birthday with you." But he broke his promise. 10 years later, on my birthday, he abandoned me too. After being cooped up in the mansion for many days, with the new year approaching, I took Chuanqing out of the mansion. "Miss, this one is beautiful." The rose-red cloak Chuanqing was pointing at had snow-white fox fur on the cuffs and collar, paired with white plum blossoms scattered all over the cloak, making it extremely beautiful. "Jingwen brother, this one is beautiful. I want it." Before my hand could even touch the cloak, a crisp, clear voice calling out "Brother Jingwen" unsettled my heart a little. Seeing me, Shu Jingwen's face briefly showed a flicker of surprise. "Sister Yang." I didn't want to pay any attention, but the girl's scrutinizing gaze was truly piercing. "Greetings, third young master. Is this your sister Song Yang, whom you just broke off the engagement with?" The girl's voice was neither too loud nor too soft, just enough to be heard throughout the entire Jinqiu pavilion. Under the shopkeeper's astonished gaze, I looked toward Shu Jingwen behind her. Although he wore a displeased expression, he did not speak up to stop her. "Yes, I did break off the engagement with the third young master. Otherwise, why would the third young master be following you around? I have never been one to be easily dealt with." "You," after I snapped at her, the girl's face flushed with anger. "Yang sister, a woman's reputation is of utmost importance. Choose your words carefully. If before today, I still held a shred of genuine affection for him, then in that moment, it vanished completely. I didn't respond further. Borrowing the shopkeeper's curtain, I stepped out and handed the hibiscus jade pendant to Xu Jingwen, third young master. The bond between our two families has come to an end. This jade pendant was a birthday gift you gave me when I was 5 years old. Today, I return it to you. The jade pendant lay in her palm for a long time. But Xu Jingwen made no move to take it. The young woman grew impatient, snatched the pendant, and threw it to the ground. With a crisp crack the exquisitely carved lotus jade pendant shattered into 3 pieces. You are merely the daughter of a merchant. You only secured this engagement by relying on your deceased mother's friendship with Lady Xu. Breaking it off is for the best. Xu Jingwen was originally staring at the broken jade pendant, but upon hearing the girl's words, he couldn't help but take a sharp breath. Yining, don't say any more. Yes, it's been 10 years. I haven't seen my mother's remains. My father said she died at the border and was buried there. But the border is just too far away, so I thought my father was lying to me. Every day, I hoped for my mother to come home. Chuanxing couldn't hold back, and neither could shopkeeper Qi. The affairs of my Song family are not for outsiders to comment on. Miss Shong, please leave. My brocade pavilion is not receiving outside guests today. The Zhongyi Earl's family has such fine upbringing. Chuanxing's words completely enraged Shong Yining. Before I could react, Chuanxing had already received a solid slap while everyone was still in shock. My right hand had already firmly returned a slap to her. Shong Yining covered her face, looking at me with an expression of disbelief. You dare hit me? With that, she wanted to hit me. But Xu Jingwen behind her tightly grabbed her hand. Yining, stop making a scene. My lowered hand was still trembling slightly. I had used all my strength in that slap, and Shong Yining's face was visibly swollen and red. Xu Jingwen, are you just going to watch her bully me? Shong Yining's voice was already tinged with a sob. Xu Jingwen looked at my slightly reddened eyes and said, I'm sorry. With that, he took Shong Yining by the hand and left Brocade Pavilion. Shopkeeper Qi had everyone leave. I sat at the tea table for a long while to calm myself before finally smiling and saying to Chuanxing, you see, I've caused trouble. Chuanxing's eyes reddened instantly, and she reached out to rub my right hand. Miss, you didn't have to stand up for me like that. Shopkeeper Qi draped that cloak over me for me. Miss, let's return to the mansion. When I looked up, my eyes were already red, and tears were about to fall. Aunt Qi pulled me into her embrace. It's all right. It's only right for the young lady of our Song family to vent her frustrations in our own shop. At worst, we can just close this brocade pavilion. I wasn't speaking, but large teardrops had already soaked Aunt Qi's clothes. It's about to snow outside. Let's hurry back to the mansion. The carriage creaked as it made its way through the streets. Inside the carriage, Chuanxing adjusted the cloak for me and said, young Master Xu still protected the young lady and did not let her suffer any more grievances. It wasn't about protecting me. It was Shong Yining who started the trouble. If she had retaliated, the reputation of the Shong family's eldest daughter as being hot-tempered would have spread to every corner of the capital in less than half a day. After saying this, I habitually reached for the jade pendant on my neck, only to remember that it was no longer there. That piece of jade had already shattered at Jinxiu Pavilion, shattered in the midst of this winter. In just 2 days, Jinxiu Pavilion was thoroughly investigated by the Ministry of Revenue. On the day the seal was affixed, Aunt Qi came to visit. In the front hall, as she sipped the Longjing tea sent from Suzhou and Hangzhou in the spring, she let out a long sigh of relief. I can finally rest properly. All these years, I've worked myself to the bone for your Song family without a single day of leisure. Father, sitting in the seat of honor, scolded with a laugh, you're enjoying your leisure, but I'm so worried I'm growing white hairs. I set down the tea and snacks in my hands and knelt before my father. It's all my daughter's fault. I was willful and caused you distress. Father was startled and quickly helped me up. Song Yang, you truly are my daughter. The Xu family, climbing the social ladder. Look down on our Song family. Even without the incident at Jinxiu Pavilion, I would have found a way to cause them trouble. Master, I shouldn't say this, But the young lady struck the legitimate third daughter of the Zhongyi Earl's household. I'm afraid this matter won't be easy to settle. In the end, it's just a matter of losing all the family fortune. If that happens, I'll accompany my daughter to the borderlands and take her to see her heartless mother. In the following days, my father returned home later and later. On New Year's Day, it was already dark, and he still hadn't come back. Servants were sent out one after another, but none could find any trace of him. Just as I was in a state of panic, Xu Jingwen accompanied Madame Xu to our door. "Ah Yang, your father has been imprisoned." I was startled by the words. "You don't need to worry. Jingwen has already intervened to some extent. It's just that Yining is quite sensitive. Only by leaving the capital can you ease her anger." My voice was already trembling. "Why, I was born in Shangjing, grew up in Shangjing, and for 15 years, I never once stepped outside the city gates. Sister Yang, all your family's shops have met with disaster. You acted on impulse, venting your anger. But Yining has no way to release hers. Leaving Shangjing would also give Yining a way to save face. Your Uncle Shu and Jingwen will have a proper discussion with the Zhongyi Bo residents to release your father and even leave a few shops for your family, so your father can live a decent life." With each of them speaking one after the other, I finally understood the true meaning behind their visit. What if I refuse? Madame Shu's expression instantly changed. "Your family is of merchant background. No matter how wealthy, how can it compare to a century-old hereditary count's household? Do you want your father's life or not? Sister Yang, don't be afraid. Once Yining calms down, if you wish to return, I will come to bring you back." His words made me laugh. "To take me back as your mistress?" Choked by my words, Xu Jingwen's face turned pale. Fine, Song Yang, I wanted to help you for your mother's sake. But you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Seeing that the Xu mother and son were about to leave, I finally relented. "I can leave the capital. But I must wait until my father returns home safely, and you must guarantee his safety after I leave." Hearing my words, Madame Shu's face lit up with a smile again as she took my hand and said, "Good, I knew you were the most sensible, Iron." After the Shu family mother and son left, the sparse snow of the new year began to fall. Chuanxing had long been standing by my side, sobbing uncontrollably. "Miss," I held her hand in return, gazing at the swirling snowflakes and said, "I knew when I hit her that day that this matter wouldn't end well, but how could I have imagined it would cause father to suffer? Today should have been a day for family reunion. Shang Yining wouldn't dare to lay a hand on me in Shangjing, but once I leave the city, any mountain bandit could easily take my life. By the time the news reaches Shangjing, it would have nothing to do with her." Shang Yining. On the first day of the new spring, the weather was unusually cold. By the time my father was helped back to the residence, I had already prepared for my journey. My father stood at the entrance of the residence, watching Chuanxing load the luggage onto the carriage one piece at a time. Remaining silent for a long while, I stood at the foot of the steps, watching my father's frail figure, my heart aching with sorrow. In the 10 years since my mother passed away, the vast mansion was home to only my father and me, relying on each other in the most difficult times. My father had considered leaving this world to follow in my mother's footsteps, but for my sake, he endured time and time again. In the first 2 years after my mother left, I often suffered from nightmares at night. When the nannies in the mansion couldn't calm me down, they would carry me to my father. As the nightmares became more frequent, whenever I woke from one, my father would always be by my bedside, gently patting and soothing me. Yang, come home with father. Father. I am going to the borderlands to bring mother back. Iron, come home with father. Father repeated these words, his voice filled with worry. He must have known everything. I did not respond, but knelt directly before him. The 3 kowtows I performed were sincere and heartfelt. The freshly melted snow was bitterly cold, its chill seeping through my legs and into my heart, eventually turning into tears that streamed down my face. This farewell might be the last. Yang's willful and reckless behavior has offended the powerful, and it is Yang's fault. It is because your father is useless. The choked voice made me even more heartbroken. Father, wait for me to bring mother home. I gathered the cloak around me, stepped onto the carriage, and dared not look back. Only after the carriage creaked through the mansion gate did I turn for a final glance. The wind had picked up, its chill biting deep into the bones. My father stood motionless at the gate, lingering for a long while. As the carriage passed through the city gate, Mother Shu and her son watched the departing carriage, showing a rare trace of reluctance. Yu Dao had only this one daughter, what a pity. Gazing at the receding carriage, Shu Jingwen spoke, I have sent people to escort her to the borderlands. Whether she makes it or not will depend on her fate. He did feel reluctant after all. They had been together for many years, and it was impossible not to have any affection. If there was anyone to blame, it could only be that her family background offered him no assistance. The carriage had only traveled a dozen miles out of the city when Shang Yining could no longer restrain herself. The sounds of clashing swords and fighting erupted all around. Inside the carriage, I held Chuanqing's hand. Silly girl, I told you not to follow, see. I won't live past today, miss. I understand everything, I've grown up with you. And wherever you go, I'll go too. Chuanqing, after all, was still young. Even though she had known the outcome since yesterday, she couldn't help trembling with fear. Hold my hand tight. In the next life, let's be real sisters. The sounds of fighting outside the carriage gradually faded, and everything had reached its conclusion. When the curtain was lifted, I was holding the trembling Chuanqing. At the moment the sword came down, I thrust the dagger I had hidden in my sleeve deep into the heart of the person before me. Warm blood splattered all over my face. I couldn't afford to be afraid now. There was only one thought in my mind, I want to live, I want to survive. I picked up the knife and quickly pulled Chuanqing out of the carriage. Outside the carriage, the bodies lay scattered in disarray. Besides the guards I had hired, there were several more corpses dressed in black. The person clearing the bodies looked stunned when they saw me dragging Chuanqing out of the carriage. They quickly lifted the carriage curtain. Damn it, she killed Laro-san, a furious roar echoed, and the surrounding bandits gathered. I dragged Chuanqing, running desperately, but the disparity was too great. We were caught within 100 meters. I brandished my knife, waving it frantically, while Chuanqing trembled violently behind me. I never expected old third to fall at the hands of a little girl like you. These people forced me to retreat step by step, and my hand holding the knife trembled uncontrollably. Sir, whatever the buyer is paying you, I'll double it, no, triple it. You killed my brother. Today, you will surely die. Sir, spare my life. I can give you all my possessions. I only ask for a chance to live. Watching their relentless advance, I felt despair, as the blades closed in before my eyes. I resigned myself and closed them. Whoosh, a sound of wind breaking through the air. Warmth once again touched my face. After a long time without feeling pain, I quietly opened my eyes. The fierce and menacing bandits had turned into cold corpses. I stared blankly at everything and touched the blood all over my face. Did I survive? Chuanqing had long fainted from fear. It was only then that I noticed two men on horseback several meters behind me. The one in the lead wore a moon-white winter robe, with thick eyebrows and dark eyes that shone even brighter than a celestial being. He was still holding a bow in his hand. At this moment, I truly felt alive, letting out a huge sigh of relief as I collapsed to the ground and burst into tears. I survived, I really survived. I crawled over and held Chuanqing, shaking her a few times before she slowly woke up. Chuanqing, we survived, we survived. Chuanqing seemed unable to believe it. Holding me tightly and only beginning to sob uncontrollably after feeling my heartbeat, Chuanqing and I took a long time to calm down before we remembered our saviors. We quickly stood up and bowed to the two of them. Thank you, gentlemen, for saving us. We kept our heads bowed for a long time without hearing a response. Before we could look up, the sound of hooves gradually approached, and a white handkerchief appeared before our eyes. Wipe, wipe. Thank you, kind hero, you. A young lady traveling with just a maid, are quite brave. The pure white handkerchief was already stained with blood, and I felt too embarrassed to return it. As I was still pondering what I could use to compensate, the young master in the moon-white robe spoke up. I was asking if there's some urgent matter that requires you to leave the city on the first day of the new year. Yes, I need to go welcome my mother home. Where is your mother? At the frontier, at the frontier. Do you know how far the frontier is from the capital? The two of you, young girls. The young man beside the one in the moon-white robe took a sharp breath, his eyes filled with disbelief. I know, if we set off now, we should reach the frontier around the beginning of June. If we bring mother back, we should be able to make it in time for the next New Year's celebration. With that, I let out a bitter laugh. You see, it wasn't just the two of us young girls. There were our family servants and hired guards, they all died. At this moment, the two seemed to remember something. The young man in black murmured softly, "How could there be bandits on the very first day of the new year?" A smile was on my face. Who knows, perhaps it's a lack of silver coins. Aren't you afraid? Zhao Ziyan was somewhat surprised. The young girl before him seemed soft and gentle, yet she had such courage. I was scared. If it weren't for you two gentlemen today, my sister and I would have met our end. The little girl's eyes sparkled brightly. Zhao Ziyan was stunned for a moment, then pointed to the carriage and said, "Get in the carriage, we're heading to the borderlands anyway, so let's travel together." Bian Si looked at his master with an expression of disbelief. After all, they had been ordered to go to Jiangnan. Hearing Zhao Ziyan say this, Song Yang was overjoyed. "Thank you, sir. May I ask for your name? I am likely a few years older than you." "My surname is Zhao, and my courtesy name is Ziyan. You may call me elder brother." "And you, Song Yang?" "Thank you, elder brother Ziyan." Bian Si became the coachman, driving the horse forward while muttering under his breath, "Master, you have been given orders, how can you go to the frontier?" Zhao Ziyan paid him no mind, riding his horse as he followed the swaying carriage further and further away. Fortunately, we made it past the checkpoint at the city outskirts, and I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. As the first night fell, we settled down at an inn 30 miles away. "Miss, should we send a letter to the master to let him know you're safe?" "No need, I'm afraid news of me has already reached the capital." "There's no need to cause him sorrow." Chuanxing paused for a moment and sighed. "We've just left the capital, and the borderlands are so far away. How are we going to manage this journey? Leave it to fate. Today, thanks to brother Ziyan, we must repay him properly." "Yes, Miss has had a fright today, rest well." Bian Si was on the roof, listening to the conversation between the master and servant, and his vigilance lessened slightly. Those two young ladies are indeed heading to the borderlands, but the journey is perilous, and it seems she anticipated it. Zhao Ziyan understood clearly after listening to Bian Si's report. "Keep observing." Bian Si nodded and disappeared into the night. The night was deep, and snow fell silently. The hurried footsteps in the darkness were too conspicuous for those skilled in martial arts. Zhao Ziyan put on his outer robe and got up, but the sound of fighting stopped in an instant. Bian Si gently knocked on the door. "It's been taken care of. 3 people, not targeting you, master." Zhao Ziyan was somewhat surprised. He must have come for that young lady. Interesting. "Is she awake yet?" "There's no movement in the room, she must still be fast asleep." "Understood." Zhao Ziyan couldn't understand it. The girl was only about 15 or 16 years old and had only brought a maid with her. How could she attract an assassination attempt? I was completely unaware of all this. The next day was a clear and sunny day. It wasn't until I finished packing and stepped outside that I realized it had snowed the night before. The ground was already covered in a white coat, leaving no trace behind. "Did you sleep well last night?" Zhao Ziyan, dressed in a pure white robe and draped in a black cloak, slowly descended the stairs. "Did you sleep peacefully without dreams last night?" "Brother, yes, more or less." "Brother, have some breakfast to warm yourself up," Zhao Ziyan asked as soon as he sat down. "Miss Song, are you in a hurry?" I was momentarily stunned by the question. Are you in a hurry? "To the borderlands." Only then did I understand what he meant. "It's not that urgent." "Oh, I have important business that requires me to make a detour to Jiangnan. If you're in a hurry, you can go ahead first." As soon as I heard this, I thought, this is serious. Brother Ziyan's martial arts skills are far from ordinary, and Shang Yining would never let me off so easily. If I were to travel alone, would I even survive? No rush, no rush. I've never left the capital since I was young. So this trip will be a good chance to broaden my horizons. No need to hurry, brother Ziyan. If you have matters to attend to, please go ahead. I'll just follow behind and won't disturb you." Perhaps I was being too obvious. As Zhao Ziyan chuckled softly, my face instantly flushed red, and I lowered my head to focus on my meal. I've been assigned a task to purchase some goods in Jiangnan, which will take a bit of time. The date for picking up your mother might be delayed a little. Is that alright? It's alright, it's not very urgent. Okay, by the way, which government office does Brother Ziyan work for? No, I'm just a freelancer taking on assignments to earn some extra money. I see. I lowered my head and thought for a moment. Since he needed to earn extra money, it seemed he wasn't particularly wealthy. In that case, I could start with financial assistance, so as not to owe him a favor for nothing. Zhao Ziyan only saw the young woman take out a pink pouch embroidered with white petals from her person and hand it to him. In that case, I can't let Brother Ziyan escort me for nothing. I'll cover all the expenses along the way, and this is an additional token of my gratitude for your help. Thank you, Brother Ziyan. Bian Ce widened his eyes in surprise, while Zhao Ziyan chuckled softly and put away the purse. Then I thank Miss Song. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Glad I hadn't been too abrupt. By the time the carriage swayed and jolted its way to Jiangnan, spring had already arrived. Over the past few months of interaction, Zhao Ziyan and I had grown much closer. It's the rainy season in Jiangnan, and the weeping willows by the lake have sprouted many new leaves. The carriage was sent to the post station for repairs, so the four of us strolled slowly along the street under our umbrellas. No wonder the poems often praise the spring rain of Jiangnan. Now I see it really is quite different from the capital. This season is not the most beautiful time in Jiangnan. When the lotus flowers bloom, that lake is like a fairyland. I looked up at him, and he happened to be looking down at me. Does your brother come often? Yes. My own brother is particularly fond of Jiangnan. In previous years, I always accompanied him here. Oh, then does your brother know of any delicious food here? You have a sweet tooth. There's a shop at the end of South Street. Their lotus root starch balls are exceptional. The small balls are filled with red bean paste and are crystal clear. Once I finish my tasks in a few days, I'll take you to explore. Thank you, brother. The rain was gradually easing, but the chill of March in Jiangnan still lingered. I tightened my clothes, took the cloak handed to me by Chuanxing, and said to Zhao Ziyan, let's head back. We won't go to the courier station today. I've prepared a residence for my official duties in Jiangnan. With that, he led me around the corner, and within a few steps, we arrived at the entrance of a mansion. Several people stood at the entrance of the four-courtyard mansion, dressed in fine clothes. Upon seeing us, they hurried over to greet us. The leader was about to speak and bow, but Zhao Ziyan stopped him. Bian Ce quickly stepped forward and led the way into the mansion, perhaps noticing my confusion. Zhao Ziyan leaned in slightly and whispered in my ear, the person who gave me this assignment holds a very high status, so they show me a bit more respect. So that's how it is. After settling in, Zhao Ziyan became very busy, often disappearing for 2 or 3 days at a time. Bian Ce, however, came every day. Life went on steadily, and early summer quietly arrived. When summer comes, I tend to crave cold things. In previous years, my father would keep me in check at home. So nothing ever went wrong. This year was different. Chunxing couldn't control me, and I ended up eating too much cold food. On the day my period came, the pain was so intense I nearly fainted. Chunxing was terrified. When I slowly regained consciousness, I found myself staring into Zhao Ziyan's ice-cold face. Seeing that I had regained consciousness, the coldness on Zhao Ziyan's face faded slightly, but his tone still carried a hint of anger. You are really too indulgent with yourself. I was startled, having never seen Zhao Ziyan angry in these past few months, and quickly explained, I'm not usually like this. You should rest well. With that, he turned to leave. But before going, he instructed Chuanxing, keep an eye on your young lady. If she gets too cold again, come find me. After saying this, he left without looking back. I looked at Chuanxing in confusion. What's going on? Chuanxing stepped forward to straighten my thin quilt and spoke with a hint of helplessness. You fainted just as young Master Zhao happened to arrive. Your pale complexion gave him quite a fright, so he carried you back to the room, and you ended up staining his robe. Hearing this, my face flushed bright red. I buried my head in the blankets and let out a cry of embarrassment, so utterly mortifying. Young miss. You really mustn't indulge in the cold anymore. No need for you to say, I won't indulge in the cold anymore. Who could afford to lose face like that? After this little incident, I avoided Zhao Ziyan for several days. Fortunately, Zhao Ziyan was becoming increasingly busy and had no time to pay attention to me. Having stayed in the courtyard for too long, I took Chun Xing to South Street. I had brought few summer dresses, and I didn't particularly like the ones Zhao Ziyan had sent over. So I wanted to have a few outfits made before leaving Jiangnan. In the silk shop, I selected several pieces of fabric but found it difficult to choose the patterns. Miss, this pattern looks best when embroidered on that jade green Fuying silk. The shopkeeper recommended a white falling cliff pattern, but I shook my head. Fuying silk has a smooth texture, white embroidery doesn't stand out well on it, and the pattern looks abrupt. Jade green silk requires careful color matching, this doesn't suit it. Then what do you think of this pattern? The shopkeeper held up a pink and white hibiscus pattern, even less suitable. The shopkeeper had no other options, so they let me choose from the hundreds of patterns in the store. Unsurprisingly, I didn't like a single one. Do you have any extra patterned fabric at home? Give me some needles and thread, I'll make a pattern. The shopkeeper, perhaps having never encountered such a picky customer as me, gave me the fabric and then ignored me, turning away to attend to other tasks. So, I sat down with Chuanqing to work on the pattern. After about a quarter of an hour, I handed the pattern to the shopkeeper with great satisfaction. The shopkeeper held the pattern and was amazed for a long time, then called the embroiderers from the back courtyard. Miss, this pattern is truly unique. Could you share some details about it? The embroiderer brought over the floral pattern, and the surrounding embroiderers gathered around as well. Use white as the base. Once the base color is set, blend in a strand of pink thread to embroider the stamen. Then, using 3 strands of white and 1 strand of pink, mix in a strand of gold and embroider from the petal edges toward the center. When approaching the stamen, remove the gold thread and continue embroidering. For the leaves, use light green and outline them with silver thread. The flowing silk fabric excels in its water wave drape when moving, so extra effort should be made at the hem to create heavy lace, avoiding a clingy fit. The gold thread serves to highlight, appearing faintly when moving, while the silver thread acts as a divider, preventing the leaves from blending into the fabric itself. If using white flowing silk, gold thread must be used to separate the elements. Bring it here for me to see. A voice spoke from outside the crowd. It was Zhao Ziyan, whom she hadn't seen for many days. Beside him, aside from Bian Ce, stood 2 middle-aged men. He picked up the floral pattern, examined it for a long time, and then spoke. I didn't expect you to have such embroidery skills. Brother, what, are you feeling better? Hearing this, my face slightly reddened. Yes, much better. This is double-sided embroidery. Are you from the Song family? One of them turned the embroidered pattern over and over in their hands, their tone unusually excited. Before I could respond, they spoke again. Indeed, the young lady looks just like the head of the family. The middle-aged man's eyes were already slightly red. Upon hearing this, I was slightly startled. I knew my family had businesses in Jiangnan, but my father had never gone to Jiangnan to inspect the shops, so I had always thought the Jiangnan business was just a small silk shop and had never paid it much attention. Is it Uncle Shu? The manager of the Jiangnan silk shop was surnamed Shu. He was a neighbor who grew up with my mother since childhood. Yes, the young lady has grown up. She looks just like the head of the family, and even her embroidery skills are so similar. My mother only taught me the basics before. In the capital, young women from respectable families were rarely allowed to go out. When I missed my mother, I would read through the books she left behind and gradually began learning embroidery. Over time, I picked up some skills. Though it's only superficial compared to my mother's expertise, since this is now my own shop, it doesn't count as sharing secrets outside the family. Before I leave, I will compile some key techniques of embroidery for the embroiderers to practice and learn from. A few days ago, I received a letter from your father. In it, he mentioned that you had set off for the frontier and hoped that the Song family would look after you along the way. I never expected you to take a detour to Jiangnan. Yes, I encountered some unexpected incidents along the way. Fortunately, my elder brother came to my rescue. once his matters are settled, he will head to the frontier to bring our mother back. If he takes a liking to any fabrics, Uncle Shu, please offer him some extra convenience. Manager Shu's eyes shifted back and forth between me and Zhao Ziyan. Of course. Make a finished garment according to the pattern Xiao Yang provided. I'll return in 10 days, and if it's acceptable, we'll finalize the order. After saying this, Zhao Ziyan called out to me, come on, let's go to South Street and try that lotus root starch ball shop. Uncle Shu, please send a reply to my father on my behalf. Just tell him I've been having fun in Jiangnan and that everything is fine. Ask him to take care of his health and wait for my return. Alright. As Zhao Ziyan led Song Yang out the door, another man spoke to Manager Shu, your master's good fortune has arrived. Isn't this a double blessing? Naturally, Manager Shu watched their retreating figures. Song Yang resembled her mother greatly. Her appearance and figure were so similar that, if one didn't look closely, it would seem as if the master had returned. The early summer weather was indeed beginning to feel warm. I found myself with a round fan as Zhao Ziyan and I walked toward South Street. Is your family in the cloth business? Yes, all the silk shops under the Jinqiu Pavilion in the capital are our family's business. I knew we had businesses in Jiangnan before, but my father never paid much attention to them, and I didn't realize it was the top silk shop in Jiangnan. I'm truly ashamed. Zhao Ziyan chuckled. I didn't expect your family to be wealthy merchants. Brother, please don't tease me. In 10 days, if the garments from your family's cloth shop meet the standards, my matters will be mostly settled, and we can set off for the borderlands. Alright. After returning to the estate, I sent the key points I had organized to Bien Ce at the silk shop. In just 7 days, Zhao Ziyan delivered a finished garment made of Fuying silk, in the jade green color I had originally chosen. The finished garments have been delivered. They made an extra one for me to bring to you. Take a look and see if it meets your approval. Uncle Shu added many ruffles to the hem of the skirt as I had envisioned, enhancing the drape of the entire skirt and masking the only flaw of the Fuying silk. I was extremely satisfied. That's good then. With this, my task is complete. We'll set off for the border tomorrow to bring your mother back as soon as possible. The day we arrived at the border town of Huangshuo, the weather had already turned cold. Amid the swirling yellow dust, I gazed at the 3 characters Huangshuo town, my heart filled with mixed emotions. This was the place where my mother was buried. My father said she was laid to rest in the west, along with the other deceased commoners, so I settled at a post station in the western part. For several days after settling in, I did not leave the post station, but I inquired several times with Chuanxing by the side of the border strategy. You seem to have something on your mind lately. Why would you say that, brother? You were in such a hurry to fetch your mother along the way, but now that we've reached the border, you're no longer in a rush. Yes, I'm no longer in a hurry. Tomorrow, I'll go see her tomorrow. Zhao Ziyan felt a bit puzzled. From the moment they met, she had always said she was going to pick up her mother, but now that they had reached the borderlands, she didn't seem in a hurry at all. I sat alone in the room all night, thinking of my mother, whose memory had already grown hazy, over and over again. As the morning star was about to fade, I made my decision. However, the mountain bandits arrived suddenly. The sounds of fighting and killing on the long street abruptly reached our ears, and the crowd at the post station grew restless, with cries and shouts everywhere. Seeing the post station gate tightly shut, the bandits tried to force their way in. Zhao Ziyan and Bien Ce, gripping their swords, stood guard at the entrance. They killed anyone who tried to enter. Among the people in the post station, there were quite a few able-bodied men. Seeing this, they no longer felt afraid and stepped forward one after another to help. After the post station regained peace, Zhao Ziyan left with his sword and instructed Bien Ce to stay by my and Chun Xing's side. Perhaps sensing our unease, Bien Ce comforted us nearby. The border fortress is at the frontier, so bandits should be a common occurrence. The innkeeper, who was tidying up, paused his work upon hearing this. You're right, sir. Alas, 11 years ago, there was a similar incident. It was only suppressed after guards from the army arrived. Although bandits have occasionally entered the town over these 11 years, there has never been a situation like today where they killed anyone on sight. 11 years ago, Yes, on that winter night, there was a similar incident. The situation that day was much more severe than today, with corpses everywhere. If it weren't for the lady, this town would have long been filled with piles of bones. The lady, which lady? This lady was an ordinary woman. Since we didn't know her name, we called her the lady. To us, she was like a celestial fairy. What happened here that year? Is it related to my mother's death? The shopkeeper sighed and said, bandits came down from the mountain on a winter night, burning, killing, and looting. They slaughtered everyone they saw, not even sparing the children. The ground was littered with corpses. It is said that the lady was originally an outsider, a merchant who came to the borderlands in search of silk threads unique to the region. When the bandits attacked, she was staying with a farming family near the school. She gathered the children and villagers around her and defended the school, setting off a signal flare that alerted the military guard stationed nearby, saving everyone. But she couldn't save herself. At that time, I was in the crowd. The Lee family's child was frail and slow to take cover. Just as the bandit's blade was about to pierce the child's body, the guard was a step too late. By the time the bandit was shot, she had already taken the blow for the child, suffering a fatal injury. She closed her eyes only after seeing the guards arrive. She saved over 100 of us. Later, we built a temple in her honor, making offerings to her, hoping she would be reborn soon and attain immortality. Chuanxing's grip on my hand was so tight it hurt, and the pain made my tears fall uncontrollably. Bianxi sighed beside me. Alas, one person's death has saved over 100 lives, so it can be said they died a worthy death. The sun finally climbed above the treetops, and the bandits withdrew from the town. The townspeople were clearing the mess in the streets, and Zhao Ziyan was hailed as their hero, receiving many gifts along the way. I, too, changed into white mourning clothes, holding a small box, and led Chuanxing step by step toward the Nyangnyang temple. On the way, I ran into Zhao Ziyan, who asked me with concern, "Shouldn't you go pick up your mother today? You should check if she's still doing well." "Yes, I'm going to pick up my mother." There were many people at the entrance of the Nyangnyang temple. A young man was sweeping up the mess on the ground, while devotees holding incense knelt at the entrance, chanting, "Thank you, Nyangnyang, for protecting us and helping us escape another disaster." I stood by, watching the people's sincere prayers, and suddenly felt like laughing. Yes, thank her for protecting you through another calamity. The woman carved on the statue gradually overlapped with the one in my memory. So, she truly died at the frontier. I grabbed the man guarding the temple and pointed at the statue, asking, "Where are her remains? Has her body been collected and buried? And where is she buried?" "Buried in the backyard." I led Chuanxing quickly to the backyard. "The backyard is off limits." The young man tried to stop me, but my pace was too fast. He shouted loudly, and many commoners, hearing him, followed behind him in an attempt to block my way. In the backyard stood a solitary grave marked only by a wooden plaque. On the plaque were carved a few words, "Consort's tomb." Beside the lonely grave was a pear tree, its leaves already withered and yellow. Seeing this scene, my eyes welled up with tears, and for the first time, I truly felt the loss of my mother. I knelt before the wooden plaque, my hand brushing over the words "Consort's tomb," gazing at this solitary grave. It felt as though I wanted to pour out all the grievances of the past 10 years to her. "Father heard that you died on the frontier, so he went to look for you. When he didn't bring back your remains, I thought he had lied to me. So on my 5th birthday, I sat at the entrance of the mansion waiting for you. I waited and waited, until the snowstorm filled the sky, but you never returned." The surrounding commoners instantly fell silent, and even Zhao Ziyan and Bianxi looked at me with astonished eyes. After that, I often had nightmares, dreaming over and over again of you abandoning me, leaving me, walking away from me. No matter how I called out to you, you never turned back to look at me. When I woke up, it was always Aunt Lin, who grew up with you, holding me and comforting me. But Aunt Lin also fell gravely ill the following year because of your death and passed away. Have you seen her down there? Is she doing well? A gentle breeze rose, lifting the hem of my skirt. I wiped the tears from the corner of my eye and continued speaking. When I was 7 years old, a few children cornered me in an alley and mocked me for being uncouth and lacking a mother's upbringing. I retorted that I did have a mother, only to be hit on the head with a stone, leaving a large bump. After that, I rarely went out. When I missed you, I would read the books you left behind and learn the embroidery techniques you recorded. Often, I would embroider for an entire day. Back then, I thought that if you ever returned, you would surely praise me for my diligence and progress, and for not disgracing your reputation as the world's top embroiderer. Father never remarried, he managed the business you left behind, and now he has become a wealthy merchant renowned throughout the region. By the way, the young master of the Shu family entered the officialdom and climbed his way up to the earldom. On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony last year, he broke off our engagement. I thought to myself, if you were still here, with your temper, you would surely storm into the Shu family and argue with them fiercely. I let out a bitter laugh. The young lady from the Earl's mansion said you were dead, so I hit her. She forced me to leave the capital and tried to have me killed. Thanks to my brother's rescue, I narrowly escaped death. Every step of the way was difficult. And when I finally reached the borderlands, I didn't dare come to see you. I always thought father had deceived me, and I always wondered if you had other children in the borderlands, children more obedient and well-behaved than me, which is why you never came back to see me. The statue at the temple of the goddess looks just like you, so I believed it too, believed that you had died in the borderlands and hadn't abandoned me. Mother, in a few days, Ian will be 16. Do I look the way you imagined I would? Mother, Ian is here to take you home. The gentle breeze brushed against my face, like a mother's hand softly patting my back. I tied the white cloth hidden in my sleeve around my forehead and prepared to kneel before the solitary grave. Zhao Ziyan stepped forward and knelt down beside me. I did not stop him. After 3 bows, I turned to the people behind me and said, I ask for your help. I wish to gather my mother's remains and take her home. The people hurriedly began to dig up the grave. I collected the bones, piece by piece, and placed them into a box adorned with her favorite peach blossoms, which I had carved myself. Holding the box, I walked step by step back to the post station. Zhao Ziyan followed silently by my side, while the people stood at the entrance, watching our figures fade into the distance. I placed my mother beside me and slept soundly in the bedroom. Chuanxing stood guard at the door. While Zhao Ziyan sat in the hall for a long time without uttering a word, the courier station closed its doors, and after much deliberation, the innkeeper placed a money pouch on the table. Her ladyship has shown us immense kindness. We cannot accept this money. Bian Ce stared at the money pouch in a daze for a long time before finally speaking. I always thought she was in a hurry to fetch her mother because her mother was ill and couldn't return to the capital alone. I never expected it to be like this. When I woke up again, it was already the next morning. By the time I finished getting ready and stepped out of my room, Zhao Ziyan was already waiting for me in the hall. Good morning, brother. There was a bowl of noodles on the table, and Zhao Ziyan pushed it toward me. Try it quickly. The noodles were undercooked and salty, but they were Zhao Ziyan's heartfelt gesture. I truly couldn't swallow them. So I forced myself to gulp down a mouthful and washed it down with a cup of tea before speaking. It's delicious. That's good. The day after tomorrow is your birthday. We have to hit the road today and won't be able to celebrate on the way, so let's consider this an early celebration. From now on, I'll make you a bowl of longevity noodles for every birthday. His words were full of probing, and I understood it all. I've also grown fond of him. Well, that's really not necessary. Birthdays should be happy occasions. Eating this stuff will make you feel awful all day. The borderlands are not as good as the capital. I searched for this pearl flower for a long time, and today it will have to serve as a birthday gift. When we return to the capital, I'll get you an even prettier one. Touching the pearl flower that Zhao Ziyan had placed in my hair and looking into his sparkling eyes, my heart was filled with joy. Thank you, brother. It really wasn't a good day today. With the cold and windy weather, as I pushed open the door of the post station, I tightened my robe. Many commoners were standing at the entrance, holding gifts of gratitude in their hands. Thank you, benefactor. Thank you, your highness. My mother has heard your words. There's no need for gifts. Your well-being is her greatest hope. No, miss, the borderlands are poor, and we couldn't prepare anything of great value. We've gathered some daily necessities. And this is a birthday gift for your 5th year. Prepared on behalf of your mother. This is from when she was 6 years old. This is from when she was 7 years old. This is from today. Congratulations on the young lady's 16th birthday. May she meet a good partner, have a smooth journey ahead, and live in peace for 100 years. Looking at those birthday gifts, my eyes welled up with tears again. I handed the box to Chun Xing, bowed to the commoners, and accepted each of the birthday gifts one by one. In the crowd, only the man guarding the temple was kneeling, holding this year's birthday gift and weeping uncontrollably. I wanted to help him up, but he refused to rise. Her Majesty died to save me. I'm sorry. I caused you to lose your mother. It's all right. You don't have to guard her either. Train well and protect the peace of this land. That's what she would have wanted to see. The moment I stepped onto the carriage, I turned back and spoke to them. From now on, do not call her Your Highness anymore. She is Song Shi Yutao. You should know her surname, and you should know her given name. We welcomed the new spring along the journey. Miss, look quickly. Chuanxing held a large chicken leg in her left hand and pointed with her right at the slowly rising wishing lantern. Gazing into her starry, dazzling eyes, I couldn't help but smile. Watching the wishing lantern that had already risen halfway into the sky, I couldn't help but sigh at how quickly time flies. Another new year has arrived. The year draws to a close tonight, yet travelers remain far from home. Another new year has come, and I wonder if father is doing well in the capital, uncle is doing well, and there are people in the capital taking care of him, so you can rest assured. I was a bit surprised and looked up at him. His eyes were slightly rising along with the ascending wishing lantern. I naturally understood everything and smiled knowingly. Thank you, brother, Xiaoyan. I lost my mother when I was young, and my father passed away a few years ago. Now, only my elder brother is in charge of the family. After we return to the capital, I will ask my brother to propose on my behalf. Are you willing? Zhao Ziyan looked down into the girl's smiling eyes. Marriage is determined by parental orders and matchmakers' words. My brother will have to work hard. The person beside him replied with a low chuckle. Good. Naturally we must work harder. By June, we finally arrived in the capital. Chuanxing helped me down from the carriage, and the gatekeeper, upon seeing me, shouted as he ran into the mansion. Master, master, the eldest young lady has returned. She's back. Zhao Ziyan was about to leave. He looked at me and said gently, Xiaoyan, wait for me. I'll go report back first, then come to propose to you properly. Go ahead, I'll be waiting for you. Watching his figure riding away into the distance, after a year and a half together, I had no idea when we would meet again after this parting. My father hurried out of the mansion, his eyes red as he looked at me. I held my mother's ashes in a small box and smiled back at him. Father, I have brought mother back. White silk was hung in our home as we held a funeral that had been delayed for 11 years. There were many guests coming and going in our house, and I only then learned that the brocade pavilion had reopened. The royal family sent someone personally to offer condolences, bestowing the highest honor, and I also learned that father had become a royal merchant, no longer the lowest class of merchant, father said with great pride. Somehow, the noble members of the royal family took a liking to our family's fabrics. The eunuchs from the palace approached us to supply the fabrics. My son, we are now official merchants to the royal family, and no one can look down on us anymore. I joked with a smile. It seems that father, as an official merchant to the royal family, is highly regarded by the imperial household department. The royal family sending condolences is an unparalleled honor. It looks like father is going to make a fortune. Some say the Ministry of Internal Affairs sent people, but those who came were following the orders of the imperial harem. Perhaps it's because the fabric you provided is especially favored by the noble ladies of the imperial harem. Indeed, our family's fabric is among the finest in the capital. Such an interesting conversation came to an abrupt halt when the Shu family was spotted. Aunt Shu led Shu Jingwen and Shong Yining through the door. Shong Yining had already styled her hair in a married woman's fashion, indicating that she had already wed. Beside her, Shu Jingwen gazed at me with an expression in his eyes that I couldn't quite decipher. It seemed like a mix of reunion after a long separation and the joy of recovering something lost, leaving me utterly bewildered. No sooner had we entered than Aunt Shu threw herself onto my mother's coffin, weeping bitterly. "Oh, Xiaodao, you've had such a hard life." My father's face turned cold, and I bowed to Aunt Shu. "Thank you, Aunt Shu, for coming to pay your respects. Please join us in the backyard for the meal." Aunt Shu took my hand and gently stroked my face. "Look at you. My dear Yang has suffered so much. You've lost weight, and it breaks my heart." It was as if she were a completely different person. I looked at my father with confusion, and he responded with a bitter smile and a shake of his head. In the following days, Xu Jingwen came to our home every day, which troubled my father greatly. He even closed the door on him several times. The weather was clear and fine on this day. Bianxi had just delivered Xian's letter, which said that he had missed the time to return to the capital and was placed under house arrest by his elder brother. He asked me not to worry, as he had already requested his brother to come and propose marriage. I was overjoyed and had just put the letter away when the steward came to report that third young Master Shu and his mother had arrived. Since the Shu family held an official position, my father had no choice but to receive them. As I stepped into the front hall, it felt as if I had returned to the day the engagement was broken off. The scene was just the same, but now the tables had turned, and the Shu family had come to propose marriage. Although my Song family are merchants, my daughter will not become a concubine. Even if she remains unmarried for life, I would never allow her to be a concubine. I held the tea and did not respond, quietly savoring it on my own. Aunt Shu, seeing my prolonged silence, thought there might still be room for negotiation and smiled ingratiatingly at my father. How could she be a concubine? I've watched Ian grow up, and I've always been as close as sisters with Xiaodao. How could I let her be a concubine? She would be an equal wife. I finally spoke up. "Where is Shang Yining?" Aunt Shu thought I had relented and let out a huge sigh of relief. She took a sip of tea before speaking. "Yining is frail. After you enter the household, you will be in charge of all matters. Although you are both equal wives, you will manage the household finances, so you will naturally have the upper hand over her. Does she agree too? Even if she agrees, would the Count's mansion really consent? How dare she have an opinion? In the mansion, it's the Countess's word that counts." Watching my father's expression of frustration and disappointment, I couldn't help but laugh. He still thinks of me as the naive girl from 2 years ago who knew nothing of the world. I then turned my gaze to Xu Jingwen. "What about the third young master?" Xu Jingwen was overjoyed. "I grew up with Sister Ian since childhood. If I could marry you, I would be truly delighted in my heart." I chuckled coldly. "Let me guess, 2 years ago, my family background was insignificant and offered no help to the third young master. On the day you called off the engagement, you said you regarded me as a sister. You chose the day of my coming-of-age ceremony to break off the engagement, and I even agreed to it. If I hadn't agreed to end the engagement, how could you have possibly climbed up to the Earl's household? After attaching yourself to the Earl's household, you discovered that the Shang family was merely a facade and could no longer provide a decent dowry. The third young master had just entered officialdom and had many expenses. Shang Yining's dowry was no longer enough to cover your family's deficits. Now that my family has become a royal merchant with abundant wealth, the Shu family wants a share of the pie. I am the only daughter of the Song family, so my dowry is bound to be substantial. Now you turn around and claim to be genuinely happy." My father's face lit up with joy, but then he heard me speak again. "That year during the New Year festival, you used my father's life to threaten me, forcing me to leave the capital. Shang Yining hired assassins to kill me outside the city. I don't believe you were unaware. I narrowly escaped death. And now, how dare your Shu family come to propose marriage?" Upon hearing this, my father flew into a rage and called for the steward to drive the Shu mother and son out. They fled in disgrace. But my father only grew angrier the more he thought about it. I tried to console him for a long time, but according to my attendants, he was so furious that he didn't sleep a wink all night. The next day, early in the morning, Chuanxing noisily woke me up. Miss, something terrible has happened. The master is in trouble." Startled, all my drowsiness vanished. I asked Chuanxing for details, but she couldn't provide any clear explanation, only saying that the steward had sent her to fetch me. I hurriedly boarded the carriage, which then arrived at the Shu family's residence. The entrance was surrounded by layers of onlookers. Pushing through the crowd, I saw the Shu family's gate tightly shut, and my father sitting on the steps at the entrance, his face flushed with agitation and his voice raised in anger. They say the Shu family allowed their daughter-in-law to hire assassins to kill, and now they want to take advantage of our Song family, leaving us with no heirs. I quickly stepped forward to help my father up. Father, let's go. Father shook off my hand, pointed at the Shu family's gate, and shouted, I'm not leaving. The Shu family is shameless. They forced my daughter to break off the engagement on her coming-of-age day just to climb the social ladder, and now they have the nerve to come and propose again, trying to disgust me. And the Zhongyi's family, those prestigious clans in the capital, treat human lives like weeds. Letting their daughter run wild, if they aren't ashamed, why should I be? I'm telling you, Shu Cheng, even if I have to spend every last penny of my fortune, I will take this case to the capital's court and fight it out with your Shu family and the Zhongyi's family. When the eunuch attending to him relayed this matter to the emperor, it made his majesty burst into laughter. He then went out to meet the Prince of Xian, who was confined in the Xian prince's residence. Your future father-in-law is truly not one to be trifled with. The loyal and righteous count holds grudges fiercely. I must go and witness this commotion myself. Zhao Ziyan rolled his eyes at the person seated above and buried himself in painting. Brother, hurry up. If I lose my princess consort, I will surely enter the palace to have a chat with the empress about what is buried under the third tree to the right behind the Hall of Diligent Governance. I'm sure the empress would be overjoyed. Nangong Yao, how dare you? If my private savings are not safe, I guarantee your princess consort won't be safe either. Loyalty Earl has done all sorts of things over the years, but we lack evidence, and he is an old minister promoted by the late emperor, so we cannot touch him. Aren't you worried about your princess? I have sent people to keep watch. The Loyalty Earl is narrow-minded and will surely not let the Song family off. Isn't your majesty looking for evidence? Go and take a look. And you will surely find it. The elder brother from the Zhao family came to visit on the third day, bringing along 2 attendants carrying several boxes of expensive gifts. Upon hearing that it was the elder brother from the Zhao family who had saved me, I quickly welcomed him inside and laid out a feast of fine food and drinks. After 3 rounds of drinks, the Zhao family elder brother stated his purpose for the visit. I came here for my unworthy brother. He has long admired the young lady of the Song family. If he can marry such a virtuous wife, he will surely treasure her like a jewel in his palm and never let her suffer the slightest grievance. Father was already somewhat drunk. He studied the elder brother of the Zhao family for a long time and shook his head. My dear nephew, after the Shu family incident, I no longer intend to marry off my daughter. She is my only child, and she lost her mother at a young age. I raised her with both fatherly and motherly care, holding her in the palm of my hand, which has made her a bit spoiled. She truly cannot handle the schemes and intrigues of the inner household. Now, I have completely offended both the Shu family and the Zhongyibo residents. They want my daughter's life. And even if I have to risk my old life, I will fight them to the end. If the capital's authorities won't help, I will offer all my family's assets to the eunuchs in the palace to present to His Majesty. I've heard that our emperor treasures wealth as much as his own life. He will surely seek justice for me. Even if I end up with nothing, I must stand up for my daughter. At this critical moment, it's best not to drag your family into this. The attendant beside the elder brother of the Zhao family gasped sharply and exclaimed in a shrill voice, "Bold." The elder brother of the Zhao family chuckled softly and raised his hand to stop his attendants. "Uncle Song, how can you be so sure that my family cannot protect you? My dear nephew, I don't mean to be blunt, but judging by your attire, your family must be either wealthy or noble. However, I have been in the capital for many years, and among the prominent families here, there is no Zhao surname. I assume your family is in business, scholars, farmers, artisans, and merchants. We merchants hold a lowly status. Later, the steward will prepare generous gifts to thank you for saving my life. However, from now on, our 2 families must not interact further. I do not wish to bring harm upon you." As soon as the words fell, a man dressed as a warrior entered the front hall, dragging a man in night attire, and threw him to the ground. Bowing his head, he said, "Master, I caught an assassin on the roof of the Song family. I have already interrogated him, and he claims he was sent by the loyalty and righteousness manor to assassinate Master Song. Upon hearing this, father grew furious again and, fueled by alcohol, jumped up to confront the loyalty and righteousness manor. Upon hearing this, elder brother Zhao smiled and said to father, "Uncle Song, don't worry, since you've come to us, I'll show you whether my family is capable of protecting your daughter." After saying this, he turned to the person beside him and said, "Go and invite Lord Zhongyi to the Song residence for a discussion." "Yes, come, Uncle Song, let's have a drink. Haha, my dear nephew, don't boast. If you can really invite the loyal and righteous Count, I'll write my name Song Chi backwards. Come on, let's drink." In less than half an hour, the loyal and righteous Count hurried into the Song residence, and the elder brother of the Zhao family laughed heartily. "From now on, I shall call you Uncle Chi. Also, I haven't told you before, but my younger brother is cautious and always uses an alias when outside. His surname is Nangong, his given name is Yao, and his courtesy name is Xian." Father had drunk a bit too much and only felt that the surname Nangong sounded too familiar, making the steward so anxious that he kept tugging at his sleeve. As soon as Lord Zhongyi reached the front hall, he fell to his knees with a thud. "Your humble servant pays respects to your majesty." Startled, father abruptly stood up and remembered Nangong was the royal surname. Staggering, he knelt down with the steward's support. "When I was summoned to the front hall, this was the scene I encountered. I was about to kneel beside father when brother Zhao No, the attendant beside his majesty, hurriedly helped both father and me to our feet. Father leaned on the butler and whispered in my ear, 'Daughter, we're finished.' I looked at him in confusion, and my father began to explain, 'I just implied in every possible way that his majesty is here to freeload.' The butler added from the side, 'Not only that, you also called his majesty nephew and said he was being presumptuous.' My heart sank. Is there more? Father looked at me and nodded. I also mentioned that his majesty loves money as much as his own life, and I attempted to bribe him with my family's entire fortune in exchange for justice. I simply closed my eyes. At that moment, his majesty spoke to Lord Zhongyi. 'I heard you want to assassinate me.' Zhongyi Bo quickly pleaded his innocence. 'I wouldn't dare. I am utterly loyal to your majesty.' 'Oh, the assassin you sent said you wanted no one from the Song family to walk out alive tonight.' Coincidentally, I was a guest at the Song residence tonight. Does that mean I'd have to be carried out too?" Zhongyi Bo only cried out in grievance, "I am wronged, your majesty, I am wronged. I never sent any assassins." "Oh, then let's forget about this matter." My father and I widened our eyes. Was it just brushed aside like that? His majesty then changed the subject and said, "I heard your daughter hired an assassin to kill the young lady of the Song family. Could that also be false? Then I must investigate this matter thoroughly." Zhongyi Bo saw that his majesty was determined to make him admit to one of the charges. Compared to the lives of all 213 members of the Zhongyi Bo household, sacrificing one legitimate daughter was not a great loss. "Your majesty, I only learned of this matter the day before yesterday when Lord Song made a fuss about it. I have already sent someone to reprimand my daughter. Fortunately, Miss Song is unharmed, otherwise I would be guilty beyond redemption." "So, you admit it, my daughter acted willfully and recklessly, but fortunately, no major disaster occurred. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, the young lady of the Song family has just agreed to the marriage, and she is now the princess consort of Xian. Eunuch Liu has delivered the imperial decree to all households. The Zhongyi Earl's family, in contempt of the royal family, allowed their daughter to conspire against the princess consort of Xian. The entire family is to be exiled to Lingnan, forbidden to return to the capital without a summons. Shang Yining is granted the privilege of taking her own life. The Shu family, aware of the situation but failing to report it, are considered accomplices for allowing the tiger to run rampant. Shu father and son are stripped of their official positions, sent back to their place of origin, and forbidden from entering the capital for all eternity." Father was startled. "You agreed to the marriage?" I closed my eyes. "Father, I was just summoned and have been by your side all along." As the emperor's personal guards dragged Zhongyi Bo away, he kept shouting about being wronged. The emperor then turned around and pulled father to sit down. Uncle Song, I've long been displeased with this loyalty Earl. Relying on his status as a former dynasty official, he amassed wealth and silenced anyone in the court who disagreed with him by having them killed. I've been troubled by the lack of evidence against him, so thank you, Uncle Song, for helping me remove this tumor. Come, let's continue drinking. Father didn't dare to refuse and remained kneeling, unwilling to rise. You won't drink? I seem to recall hearing something about loving something as much as your life just now. Father immediately stood up, forcing a smile. Your Majesty, you must have misheard. Come, have a drink. The next day, His Majesty issued an imperial decree. In recognition of my mother's virtues, he granted our family the title of Duke, posthumously honored my mother with a noble title, bestowed upon me the title of County Princess, and arranged my marriage to Prince Xian as his principal consort, with the wedding set for the 5th day of the 9th month. Although I knew the title was not hereditary and my father had no son to carry it on, at least our status had been elevated. Zhao Ziyan, no. Nan Gongyaro personally came to announce the decree. The summer heat was intense, and cicadas chirped incessantly from the willow trees by the lotus pond. His Highness the virtuous king is truly imposing. Zhao Ziyan gently coaxed me. I was truly wrong. I didn't mean to hide it from you. Ziyan is indeed my courtesy name, and Zhao is an alias. Everyone knows that Nangong is the royal surname. How could I dare use it while traveling outside? Now, no matter what I say, it's all in vain. You deceived me. All right, I was truly wrong. I hope the virtuous princess consort is magnanimous and won't be angry. I lightly tapped him, and he took the opportunity to hold me. It was a long moment before I spoke. Was it you who requested the honorary title for my mother? Originally, the emperor saw how sincerely I adore you and wanted to elevate your family's status, so he decided on a baronial title. I told him about your mother's past on the frontier. And after he sent someone to inquire, he personally granted you the title of County Princess and bestowed an honorary title upon your mother. His Majesty is actually quite good, not as money-loving as my father said. Don't gossip about me behind my back. Father poked his head out from the bushes nearby and said angrily. Nangong Yarrow and I exchanged a smile. At first sight, there was joy. After long companionship, the heart still flutters, after hearing the first story above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. On the day the Prime Minister married his childhood sweetheart, I quietly breathed my last in the firewood shed. No one in the mansion checked my breath, unaware that I was the last inheritor of the art of suspended animation in the martial world. While the Prime Minister wept with regret before my grave, I had already slipped away to Jiangnan, drinking and listening to music on a painted boat, casually pinching the cheek of a handsome scholar. Life should have been carefree and joyful, until one day a heavy rain washed away the ancestral grave, and the Prime Minister discovered that my coffin was stuffed with nothing but a bundle of rotten straw. That day, the all-powerful Prime Minister smashed his teacup, vowing to turn the world upside down to find me. The lady has passed away. Listening to the maid's panicked cries, I activated the turtle breath technique. My pulse had already stopped, my breathing ceased, and even my body temperature was rapidly dropping. Impossible. Xie Jingheng's voice came from afar, carrying a panic I had never heard before. She was perfectly fine this morning. I lay on the bed, maintaining a rigid posture, feeling as if someone had rushed into the room. A pair of cold hands touched my face. I could imagine the expression that would appear on Xie Jingheng's perpetually cold face at this moment. No pulse. His voice dropped low. I chuckled inwardly. The turtle breath technique is a secret art passed down from my master. Even the head of the Imperial Medical Institute would find no flaws. Sir, the trembling voice of the physician spoke up. The lady has indeed passed away. I kept my eyes closed, yet I could feel Xie Jingheng's gaze. What was he thinking? Regret? Relief? Or was he calculating how to explain to the emperor the sudden death of the Prime Minister's wife? Everyone, out, he commanded. The sound of chaotic footsteps retreated, and the door was closed. Only Xie Jingheng and I remained in the room. I felt him sit by the bedside, his hand gently stroking my hair. In the 3 years of our marriage, he had never shown such intimacy toward me. Qingshuang, he called my name softly, his voice filled with pain. How could you just leave like that? He had never called me that before. During my time at the Prime Minister's residence, he had always addressed me coldly as Madam. Today is the day I marry Su Wanru, he continued, his hand tracing the contours of my brows and eyes. Are you unwilling to even face this? I sneered inwardly. Yes. Today was the joyous occasion of his marriage to his childhood sweetheart. The entire capital knew that the Prime Minister was finally marrying the woman he loved. The wife I married through an arranged marriage should naturally know her place and step aside. You're always like this. His voice grew lower and lower, saying nothing, enduring everything, even choosing to die on this day. I almost couldn't resist opening my eyes to question him. I endure, I say nothing. On our wedding night, he told me that this marriage was not what he wanted and that I should behave myself and not expect to receive his affection. For 3 years, I lived like a ghost in the Prime Minister's residence, while he and Su Wanru were inseparable, making me the laughingstock of the entire capital. Now that I'm finally dead, he's here putting on a show of affection. Your Excellency, the butler's voice came from outside the door. The auspicious hour has arrived, and the guests are waiting. Xie Jingheng's hand paused, and I heard him take a deep breath before reverting to the composed and self-controlled Prime Minister. Prepare the funeral arrangements, he instructed. Handle it according to the specifications of a first-rank titled lady. The sound of footsteps gradually faded away. I quietly opened my eyes and, after confirming that no one was in the room, finally relaxed completely. My breathing and heartbeat gradually returned to normal. I sat up from the bed and stretched my stiff body. The plan is proceeding smoothly. Xie Jingheng indeed believed that I couldn't bear the shock of him marrying Su Wanru and died from a heart condition. What a perfect explanation. Everyone knows the Prime Minister's wife has a weak constitution and lacks her husband's favor. The sounds of wedding celebrations drift in from outside the window. I walk to the window and watch the mansion adorned with lanterns and decorations. Xie Jingheng, dressed in a bright red wedding robe, is leading Su Wanru by the hand toward the main hall. I watched all of this coldly, my heart completely unmoved. Once, I too had fantasized that Xie Jingheng would hold my hand like this and give me a dignified wedding. But the reality was, I was carried into the Prime Minister's residence through a side door in a small sedan chair, and even the wedding ceremony was performed with a rooster. May you have a harmonious union for 100 years, I whispered toward the distant wedding banquet, then turned and began packing my bags. I had been planning this death for half a year. I secretly sold my dowry, bought a house in Jiangnan, contacted a reliable caravan, and arranged the escape route. I took out the bag I had prepared long ago from under the bed, which contained silver notes, a few changes of clothes, and tools for disguising myself. After taking one last look at the room I had lived in for 3 years, I climbed out through the back window. Everyone in the mansion has gone to the front courtyard for the wedding banquet, leaving the backyard completely empty. I avoided the patrolling guards and made my way to a dog hole in the western corner of the wall. The moment I crawled out of the Prime Minister's residence, I took a deep breath of the air of freedom. Shun Qingshuang is already dead. From now on, I will live for myself. 3 days later, my body was sent to the Xie family ancestral grave. Xie Jingheng did not come to the funeral. He was busy accompanying his new wife back to her parents' home. A heavy rainstorm washed away the grave mound. By the time the gravekeeper discovered that the coffin contained only a pile of rotten straw, I was already sitting on a boat heading south, sipping Osmanthus wine. The boatman curiously asked me why I was traveling alone. I smiled and replied, to get married. Oh, the groom is waiting for the lady in Jiangnan. I took a sip of wine and gazed into the distance. No, I'm going to marry myself. The rain in Jiangnan kept falling. I leaned against the railing on the second floor of the painted boat, watching the raindrops fall into the river. It's been 3 months since I left the capital, and I've finally tasted what freedom means. Miss, drinking alone is rather dull. A voice came from behind. I turned around and saw a scholar in a moon-white robe standing not far away, gently waving a folding fan. His eyes smiling. What a handsome gentleman. Then what does the young master consider interesting? I shook the empty wine glass, deliberately letting my sleeve slip to reveal a fair wrist. The scholar's eyes lit up slightly, and he sat down across from me uninvited. I am Xiao Yunji. May I ask the young lady's name? My surname is Bai, and my given name is Lu, Bai Lu. He savored the name carefully. The reeds are lush, the white dew turns to frost, a fine name. The verse was too much of a coincidence. My real name had been inadvertently revealed by him. I scrutinized this scholar named Xiao Yunji. His expression remained calm, as if he had truly just recited the poem casually. Young Master Xiao is quite learned. I refilled the wine and pushed it toward him. How about joining me for a drink? Xiao Yunji took the wine glass. Where are you from, Miss Bai? Your accent doesn't sound like you're from the Jiangnan region. I came from the north. My family forced me into marriage, so I ran away. This wasn't exactly a lie. Xie Jingheng was indeed forced by his father to marry me, and I did run away, just in a rather unique way. Xiao Yunji's eyes flickered with a hint of amusement. Forced marriage. Then the other party must be a blockhead with no sense of romance, to make a lady like Miss Bai run away. I nearly choked on my drink. Xie Jingheng truly is a blockhead with no sense of romance. In 3 years of marriage, he has barely touched my hand a few times. You're absolutely right, young Master Xiao. I leaned forward and deliberately lowered my voice. My fiancé, you see, always wears a stern face, as if everyone owes him 800 taels of silver. I imitated Xie Jingheng's icy expression. I'm so annoyed. Xiao Yunji burst into laughter, reaching out to tuck a stray strand of my hair behind my ear. Then, Miss Bai, what kind do you like? I was momentarily speechless. Not expecting this scholar to be so bold, when I was in the Prime Minister's residence, who would dare treat me like this? Just as I was thinking about how to respond, a sudden commotion erupted outside the painted boat. I turned to look out the window and saw a team of officers and soldiers inspecting passers-by one by one on the dock. They held portraits in their hands, comparing them with the people on the street. They've been checking strictly lately, Xiao Yunji said, following my gaze. His tone still relaxed. They say an important criminal has escaped from the capital. Is that so? I forced myself to stay calm. Xiao Yunji stood up. I'll go and ask around. Please wait a moment, Miss Bai. Before I could stop him, he had already walked downstairs. I observed the activity at the dock. Xiao Yunji exchanged a few words with the leading officer, who then respectfully saluted him and handed over the portrait in his hand. Xiao Yunji glanced at it, then suddenly looked up. His gaze directly fixed on me. Did he see me? Did he recognize me? Is he looking for me? I forced myself to calm down. I had already altered my appearance and changed my disguise. My current look is only about 30% similar to my original one. Moreover, in everyone's eyes, Shun Qingshuang is already dead. Xie Jingheng couldn't openly search for a deceased prime minister's wife, unless he has already discovered the straw in the coffin. I bit my lower lip. I had to leave immediately. While Xiao Yunji was still at the dock, I quickly packed my belongings and prepared to jump into the water to escape. Where are you going, Miss Bai? Xiao Yunji's voice sounded from behind. I suddenly remembered something urgent. I took a few steps back. Xiao Yunji approached, a mysterious smile on his face. How strange. The person in this portrait bears a striking resemblance to Miss Bai. It's just a coincidence. There are many people in the world who look alike. What's even more peculiar, he continued to press closer, is that this woman is a runaway slave from the Prime Minister's estate, who stole important valuables. Yet this secret letter, written by the Prime Minister himself to the governor of Jiangnan, says they are looking for a woman who knows the art of turtle breath. Xie Jingheng actually found out about the turtle breath technique. Xiao Yunji had already forced me to the window, leaving me with no way to retreat. He raised his hand, and I thought he was going to grab me, but he only gently brushed my face. The disguise is good, but the eyes can't lie. I tightened my grip on the dagger, ready to fight to the death, but Xiao Yunji suddenly took a step back. Madam, do you need help? I stared at him in shock. You knew all along. From the moment you started imitating the clueless blockhead, I must say, the imitation was quite convincing. I almost thought Xie Jingheng himself was here. Who are you? I asked warily. Why are you helping me, Xiao Yunji? the genuine article, he performed an exaggerated bow. As for why I'm helping you, it's because I despise Xie Jingheng. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The clamor outside the window grew louder. Xiao Yunji walked over to the wall and pushed aside a painting. The owner of the pleasure boat is a friend of mine. There's a secret passage here that leads to the shore. If you trust me, come with me. At the very least, he wasn't an enemy right now. I nodded and followed him through the hidden door. Young Master Xiao, I asked in the darkness, are you really just a scholar? His laughter echoed through the secret passage. Miss Bai, no, Lady Shen, in Jiangnan, everyone has their own secrets. Perhaps one day you will learn mine. At the end of the secret passage was a small room. Xiao Yunji took a set of coarse cloth clothes from the cabinet and handed them to me. Change into these. I will escort you out of the city. I took the clothes. Does the warrant have my real name on it? Xiao Yunji shook his head. They only mentioned a runaway slave, not a single word about the Prime Minister's wife. He looked at me meaningfully. It seems your ex-husband doesn't want anyone to know that his wife is still alive. I let out a cold laugh. Yes, how could Xie Jingheng let anyone know that the wife he personally buried had long since fled? What a blow that would be to the dignity of the Prime Minister. After changing my clothes, I took out a small bottle from my bundle, poured out the liquid inside, and applied it to my face. The disguise gradually dissolved, revealing my true appearance. Indeed, much more beautiful than on the wanted notice. Stop the sweet talk, I glared at him. Where to next? The Western Region caravan sets off for Liangju tomorrow. The leader, Ashina, owes me a favor and will ensure you leave Jiangnan safely. Why are you helping me? I still didn't understand. Xiao Yunji fell silent. Because I know what kind of person Xie Jingheng is. He would rather break a bird's wings than let it fly free from its golden cage. Xie Jingheng is exactly that kind of person, controlling everything and tolerating no defiance. Thank you, I said sincerely. Xiao Yunji reverted to his usual frivolous demeanor. Don't thank me too soon. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll come to collect this favor. Footsteps suddenly sounded outside the house. Xiao Yunji's expression changed abruptly, and he quickly blew out the candle. The officers have searched their way here. We held our breath and hid behind the door, listening as the footsteps drew closer. If I were caught and taken back, how would Xie Jingheng treat me? Thinking of his cold face and his merciless methods, I couldn't help but shiver. Follow me, Xiao Yunji whispered. This leads to the river. Hold your breath and swim to the willow tree on the opposite bank to wait for me. Before I could respond, the door was kicked open. Go quickly. Xiao Yunji pushed me into the water, then turned to face the officers. I heard him say, "What business do you have, officers?" He drew the officers away for me, and now his fate is unknown. Finally reaching the opposite shore, I lay under a willow tree, gasping for breath. Xiao Yunji, I clenched my fists, fearing that he might get into trouble because of me. Are you worried about that scholar? A strange voice suddenly came from behind. Under the moonlight, the person was dressed in exotic attire, with a curved knife tucked at their waist. Who are you? Ashina Lai. He straightened up. Xiao Yunji sent me to pick you up. I cautiously took half a step back. Prove it. Ashina grinned. He said you would ask that. He pulled a jade pendant from his chest, the very one that hung from Xiao Yunji's waist. He also said that Lady Shen is more difficult to deal with than she appears. Seeing the jade pendant, I let my guard down. How is Xiao Yunji? That kid is slippery. Ashina played with the jade pendant. The officers can't catch him. Let's go. We need to leave the city before dawn. He turned and walked away. After a moment's hesitation, I followed. Slow down, I said, panting. Ashina turned back, his gaze falling on my soaked clothes. You're cold. Before I could answer, he had already taken off his own outer robe and thrown it to me. Thank you. I wrapped myself tightly in the robe, feeling much warmer indeed. Ashina said nothing, only slowed his pace. We arrived at a camp outside the city. A dozen camels and carriages were arranged in a circle, with a bonfire burning in the center. Several merchants, also dressed in exotic attire, were busy packing their goods. The young master is back, a red-bearded man shouted loudly. Young master. Ashina nodded briefly and gave a few instructions in a language I couldn't understand. The red-bearded man immediately brought dry clothes and hot soup. handing them to me respectfully. Change, drink. Ashina pointed to a nearby tent. We leave in the time it takes for one incense stick to burn. Inside the tent, I quickly changed into the dry dress. I quietly lifted a corner of the tent to observe the caravan outside. Are you ready? Ashina's voice sounded outside the tent. I took a deep breath, lifted the tent flap, and stepped out. Ashina looked me up and down, then suddenly reached out. I instinctively flinched, but he only tucked a stray strand of my hair behind my ear. This makes you look more like a woman from the western regions. The caravan set off xiao Yunji said you're going to Liangju. I nodded. It's better to leave the Central Plains for now, because of the Prime Minister. I looked at him. Did xiao Yunji tell you? He only said you were avoiding someone. Ashina chuckled lightly. But there aren't many in the entire Great Liang who could make that kid xiao Yunji personally step in to help. Plus, with the recent uproar about the sudden death of the Prime Minister's wife, he gave me a meaningful look. It wasn't hard to guess. Don't be nervous, Ashina said casually. I have no interest in the power games of the Central Plains. The caravan only cares about money and the road, not the origins of our guests. The sky gradually brightened as the caravan moved along the official road. The distant mountains undulated, completely different from the familiar scenery of the capital. Rest for a while. I dismounted to stretch my stiff limbs and walked to the stream to wash my face. I washed off the remaining medicine, revealing my true appearance. That's more like it. Ashina's voice sounded from behind. Disguise doesn't suit you. Do you know what will happen if Xie Jingheng finds you? Ashina raised an eyebrow. Will he kill you? No, I smiled bitterly. He will lock me up, chaining me to the bed with a golden chain until I admit my mistake and beg for mercy. Ashina suddenly burst into laughter. Interesting. I'd like to meet this Prime Minister. Suddenly, Redbeard roared. It's an ambush. Ashina swiftly pushed me to the ground. An arrow grazing his shoulder as it flew past. Hidden guards. They were Xie Jingheng's men. They had actually tracked us here. Ashina whistled, and the caravan guards immediately formed a defensive formation. He grabbed me and pushed me toward Redbeard. Take her and go first. No, I broke free from Redbeard's grasp. They're here for me. Ashina had already drawn his curved blade. Then it's even more reason for you to go. I watched helplessly as blood splattered wherever the curved blade passed, but there were too many shadow guards, and soon 3 black-clad men broke through the defense line and charged toward me. Redbeard drew his sword to fight back but was struck in the thigh by an arrow. I drew my dagger. Although my martial arts skills were not as good as Ashina's, I was not a weak woman to be slaughtered at will. When the first shadow guard lunged at me, I sidestepped to avoid him. The second one seized the opportunity to grab my shoulder, so I kneed him in the groin. As he bent over in pain, I struck the back of his neck with a chop. Madam, the third shadow guard suddenly spoke. The Prime Minister requests your return. Don't even think about it, the shadow guard sneered. Pulling out the jade pendant I had left at the Prime Minister's residence, the only gift Xie Jingheng had ever given me. The Prime Minister said that if you refuse to return, you should think of the more than 30 members of the Shen family. My father, my mother, my young siblings. Was Xie Jingheng actually threatening me with them? Just as I was distracted, the hidden guard lunged at me. I couldn't dodge in time and was about to be captured when a dark figure suddenly appeared in front of me. Ashina let out a muffled groan. Ashina, I cried out in shock. He staggered for a moment, then turned and slashed at the hidden guard with his blade. Go. He grabbed my wrist and dragged me toward the horses. Behind us, the caravan guards had already dealt with most of the shadow guards. Ashina whistled, and the horse galloped over. He mounted it, then bent down and scooped me up, placing me in front of him. Hold on tight. The wind howled, the scent of blood enveloping me. You've been hit by an arrow. Don't move, you won't die. We ran all the way until the horse was exhausted before we stopped. Ashina chose a hidden cave. As soon as he dismounted, he staggered and had to lean against the rock wall to keep from falling. Let me take a look. I helped him sit down and carefully examined the wound. I tore a strip of cloth from my skirt. We need to pull the arrow out. Ashina nodded, pulling a dagger from his boot and handing it to me. Use this. I cut away the clothing around the wound with a dagger, took a deep breath, and gripped the arrow shaft. This will hurt. Hurry up. Woman, Ashina said impatiently. With a sudden force, I pulled the arrow out, tearing through flesh. Ashina let out a muffled groan but stubbornly refused to cry out. We need to stop the bleeding. I looked around and spotted some medicinal herbs outside the cave, then quickly ran to gather them. When I returned, Ashina had already sat up on his own and was using a dagger to cauterize the wound. I snatched the dagger away. Are you trying to get yourself killed? I chewed the herbs and applied them to the wound, then tightly wrapped it with a cloth strip. Ashina watched me in silence the entire time. Why did you take the arrow for me? The caravan's rule, the safety of the guests comes first. Is that all? And also, I want to see just how much that Prime Minister cares about you. In the evening, I lit a small fire at the entrance of the cave. Ashina fell into a deep sleep due to blood loss. And as I kept watch by his side, my thoughts were in turmoil. Xie Jingheng actually used the Shen family to threaten me. This is not his usual style. He has always disdained such tactics. What could have changed him? In the firelight, Ashina was unusually quiet. The sharpness he displayed during the day completely gone. I gently brushed aside the golden hair on his forehead and noticed a faint scar between his eyebrows. Looking down, there was a peculiar pattern tattooed on his shoulder. Just as I wanted to lean in for a closer look, my hand was suddenly grabbed. Curiosity killed the cat. Mrs. I quickly pulled my hand back. Your injury. You won't die. He slowly sat up. The caravan will find us tomorrow, and then we'll continue on our way. I nodded, suddenly feeling a wave of exhaustion. So much had happened in just one day, being hunted, escaping, Ashina taking an arrow for me. Before I knew it, I had fallen asleep leaning against the cave wall. In my drowsiness, I felt someone draping a coat over me. In the dream, Xie Jingheng stood in the distance, holding a golden chain in his hand, with Ashina at the other end. Another pot. I raised my wine glass high. In the drunken immortal pavilion, the sound of strings and bamboo instruments filled the air. Dancers twirled their flowing sleeves, and the guests cheered enthusiastically. For the first time in 3 months, I felt so relaxed. Ashina's caravan had long since safely arrived in Liangju. And Xie Jingheng's shadow guards never appeared again. Miss Bai, you have quite the capacity for drink. The blue-robed scholar beside me filled my cup with wine. In my drunken haze, I recalled my days at the Prime Minister's residence, those banquets where I had to maintain decorum, those icy warnings from Xie Jingheng. Miss Bai, what are you thinking about? The scholar asked, leaning in closer. I miss my late husband, I blurted out. This identity was one I had just made up, a young widow. Out to clear her mind. In a place like Liangju, no one would question it. Has Miss Bai been married before? I was married, but he died, I said, swaying my wine glass with a drunken, dazed look. He died well, died wonderfully, died splendidly. The entire room erupted in an uproar, followed by uproarious laughter. I laughed along, laughing until tears streamed down my face. Yes, Shen Qingshuang is already dead and gone for good. Xie Jingheng must be living in perfect harmony with Su Wanru. The lady is drunk. The scholar reached out to support me. I was about to push him away when the door of the Drunken Immortal Tavern was suddenly kicked open. A group of guards in black entered, lining up on both sides. Then, a tall figure stepped in. The wine glass in my hand fell to the ground with a clatter. Xie Jingheng, after 3 months apart, he had lost some weight, his features sharper than before. And the chill in his eyes was even more pronounced. Search. The guards immediately dispersed, checking the guests one by one. I lowered my head, pretending to be drunk, hoping that my disheveled hair would cover my face. Your Excellency, I wonder. The owner of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion nervously stepped forward. With just one glance from Xie Jingheng, he fell silent. I secretly looked up and saw Xie Jingheng take out a portrait from his chest. Had he actually come all the way to Liangju himself? Sir, nothing found here either. The guards reported one after another. Xie Jingheng frowned deeply, his gaze sweeping across the hall. I quickly leaned on the scholar's shoulder, pretending to be dead drunk. Sir, the guard walked up to our table. Please look up. The scholar hurriedly pushed me away. Your Honor, please understand. I stumbled from the push and nearly slipped off the chair. Suddenly, a cold hand pulled me up. Madam, Xie Jingheng's voice sounded above my head. Have you had enough fun? I slowly looked up. Xie Jingheng's eyes were burning with a fury I had never seen before. Sir, you must have mistaken me for someone else. I forced myself to remain calm. My surname is Bai, Shen Qingshuang. Did you think that by faking your death, changing your appearance, and fleeing to Liangzhu, I wouldn't be able to find you? I looked around. And everyone was staring at us in terror. The scholar in blue had already collapsed onto his chair in fear. It seems I can't keep up the act any longer. Taking advantage of my drunkenness, I reached out and touched Xie Jingheng's face. This young gentleman looks so much like my late husband. Xie Jingheng's face instantly turned ashen. Return to the capital, he commanded coldly. Scooping me up in his arms, let me go, I struggled. Xie Jingheng strode toward the door, and the guards quickly followed. In a moment of quick wit, I pretended to struggle while secretly administering the drug with my fingernails. You, Xie Jingheng suddenly halted, his gaze growing unfocused. Drugged, sir. The head guard noticed something was wrong and stepped forward. Xie Jingheng swayed and collapsed to the ground with a thud. Seizing the opportunity, I broke free from his embrace and, before the guards could react, threw a handful of smoke powder. Grab her. I rushed into the kitchen and slipped into the alley through the back door. The small paths in Liangzhu city twisted and turned, and I deliberately ran through the dark areas, quickly shaking off the pursuers, hiding in an abandoned courtyard. I was shocked to see Xie Jingheng personally chasing after me. Shouldn't he be in the midst of his newlywed bliss with Su Wanru? Why was he so fixated on a deceased ex-wife? To make matters worse, my disguise materials and silver notes were all left at the Drunken Immortal Inn. The entire city was bound to be under strict lockdown now, and I had to get out as quickly as possible. Fortunately, the dagger Ashina gave me as a farewell gift was still with me. The city gates were already under strict lockdown. With 3 times the usual number of guards, I hid in the shadows to observe and noticed that only the western wall, due to its disrepair, had relatively lax security. Just as I was about to make my move, footsteps suddenly sounded from behind. Don't be nervous, it's me. Xiao Yunji stepped out from the shadows. Young Master Xiao, I put down the dagger. How did you? I heard there was quite a commotion in Liangzhu, so I came to see for myself. He grinned. I didn't expect it to really be you. Xie Jingheng personally taking action, that's quite the honor. I smiled bitterly. How is he now? He's awake and furious. Xiao Yunji lowered his voice. He's already mobilized the Liangzhu garrison, vowing to turn the city upside down to find you. Xie Jingheng has never been one to act on emotion, so why is he so fixated on me? I have a way to get you out of the city, but there's a condition. What conditions? Tell me. Why is Xie Jingheng so relentless in pursuing you? Just because of a runaway wife? It's not worth the Prime Minister making such a big fuss. That's exactly what I want to know. We've been married for 3 years, and Xie Jingheng has always been extremely cold toward me, yet now he's chasing after me like a man possessed. I don't know, maybe it's because of his pride. Xiao Yunji pondered thoughtfully. Perhaps. He handed me a set of coarse cloth clothes. Change into these and come with me. Xiao Yunji found a drainage outlet, narrow but wide enough for one person to crawl through. After you get out, head west for 30 miles. There's a hunter's cabin with horses and provisions, enough to get you to the next place. I nodded gratefully. Young Master Xiao, your great kindness is beyond words. He suddenly grabbed my hand. Shen Qingshuang, do you really not know why Xie Jingheng is chasing you? I shook my head. Because he's fallen for you, you fool. Xiao Yunji released his grip. He probably hasn't even realized it himself. Xie Jingheng loves me, the man who refused to touch me for 3 years after our marriage. The man who was busy marrying his childhood sweetheart while I was on the verge of death. Impossible, he just can't stand anyone defying him. Xiao Yunji shrugged. Suit yourself, hurry up. We need to leave the Liangzhu area before dawn. Xiao Yunji's words lingered in my mind. Does Xie Jingheng love me? The hunter's cabin was more comfortable than I had imagined. Inside the cabin, just as Xiao Yunji had said, there was a horse and provisions prepared, along with a set of clean men's clothing. I quickly changed my clothes and tied my long hair into a man's bun. The sound of horse hooves approached from a distance. It's me. Xiao Yunji's voice came from outside the door. He was holding a wild rabbit in his hand. How did you get here? I released the dagger. Didn't you say I should go alone? Xiao Yunji shook the prey in his hand. How can you escape on an empty stomach? He skillfully started a fire and began roasting the rabbit. I sat by the fire. What about Xie Jingheng's side? The entire city is under strict lockdown. Your portrait is plastered all over the streets and alleys of Liangju, with a bounty of 1,000 taels. The good news is, he tore off a roasted rabbit leg and handed it to me. The portrait still shows you in women's clothing. For now, you're safe like this, Lord Xiao. I put down the rabbit meat and looked directly into his eyes. You said earlier that Xie Jingheng loves me. What evidence do you have? Xiao Yunji paused for a moment. Women always ask such questions, he sighed. Do you know that Xie Jingheng suppressed the news of your death? To this day, everyone in the court believes the Prime Minister's wife is merely seriously ill and resting. I frowned. What's so special about that? What special is? He moved your empty coffin out of the ancestral tomb and placed it in the secret chamber of the Prime Minister's residence. Has Xie Jingheng gone mad, keeping a coffin in his own residence? And there's more, he has imprisoned Su Wanru. What? Didn't they just get married? Marriage? Xiao Yunji sneered. What marriage? Xie Jingheng never touched her. On the third day after your death, he locked her in the dungeon. This was completely out of character for Xie Jingheng. He had always valued propriety above all else. How could he do something as extreme as imprisoning a noble lady from a prominent family? Why are you telling me this? I grew wary. Xiao Yunji knew too much, far more than an ordinary scholar should. Xiao Yunji fell silent for a moment, then suddenly untied the jade pendant from his waist. Because of this, are you one of the emperor's men? Xiao Yunji nodded gently. His Majesty sent me to keep an eye on Xie Jingheng. On the surface, the current emperor and Xie Jingheng maintain a harmonious relationship as ruler and subject, but beneath the surface, there are undercurrents of tension. Xie Jingheng's power was too great, and the emperor had long been wary of him. Do you still remember that palace banquet 3 years ago? Of course I remember. That was the place where Xie Jingheng and I first met. My father took me to the palace for the banquet. I got lost while playing and wandered into the plum grove, where I bumped into Xie Jingheng drinking alone, under the moonlight. He was dressed in white, his features as exquisite as a painting, and I was captivated at first sight. That night, someone tried to poison Xie Jingheng. Xiao Yunji's words pulled me back to reality. You accidentally drank his glass of wine. Yes, I drank the wine that Xie Jingheng handed me and then suddenly fainted. When I woke up, my father told me that the emperor had personally arranged our marriage, betrothing me to Xie Jingheng, who administered the poison. Xiao Yunji looked at me meaningfully. That is exactly what His Majesty wishes to know. So my marriage was a conspiracy from the very beginning. Did Xie Jingheng marry me because I unintentionally saved his life? Then his coldness over these 3 years has an explanation. He simply resents me. I need to know the truth. Xiao Yunji stood up. I can help you investigate, but there's a condition, another condition. Do you all love setting conditions so much? After uncovering the truth, you must return to the capital. His Majesty needs you to testify against Xie Jingheng. Testify against Xie Jingheng. On what charges? Rebellion, forming cliques, or poisoning court officials? Why should I believe you? I took a step back. What if the poison was actually administered by the emperor himself? A flicker of admiration crossed Xiao Yunji's eyes. Clever, but if the emperor wanted Xie Jingheng dead, why go through the trouble of monitoring him for 3 years? This reason doesn't convince me. Think about it. I'll come back to you with clues in 3 days. Xiao Yunji turned to leave, but I suddenly called out to him. Wait, why are you helping the emperor spy on Xie Jingheng? Who exactly are you? He looked back, just a pitiful person trying to survive. If it's really as Xiao Yunji said, that my marriage began with a poisoning attempt, then Xie Jingheng's coldness toward me over the past 3 years wasn't just heartlessness. Could it have been protection? How could that man, who treated me like air, possibly be protecting me? 3 days had passed, and Xiao Yunji still hadn't returned. I stood by the window of the hunter's cabin, gazing at the distant, rolling mountains. For some reason, I thought of the old plum tree in the backyard of the Prime Minister's residence. It always bloomed the earliest every year, and Xie Jingheng often drank alone there. The wound on my wrist ached faintly. It was in the first year of our marriage. I accidentally knocked over Xie Jingheng's inkstone, and it later turned into a faint scar. What did he say at the time? Be careful, my lady. Just that one indifferent remark, and then he continued to lower his head and review his memorials. What are you thinking about? Ashina's voice came from behind. I snapped back to reality. It's been 3 months since we last met. How did you find me? I was both surprised and delighted. The caravan has its own methods. Xiao Yunji sent me a letter saying you're in trouble. Where is he now? He was recalled. Ashina walked into the room and took a letter from his chest. Before leaving, he asked me to give this to you. Qingshuang, the situation has changed. The emperor has urgently summoned you. It has been confirmed that the one who poisoned you back then was indeed the Empress Dowager. With the aim of preventing Xie Jingheng from marrying into the Shen family, your father holds evidence of the Empress Dowager's collusion with the enemy, which is also the real reason Xie Jingheng married you. Protect the evidence, and protect yourself as well. The evidence is on you. Be cautious of Xie Jingheng, and also be cautious of the emperor. Meet 30 miles west of Liangju in 3 days. Yunji. I read it 3 times over and still had no idea. The evidence is on me. What did he say? He said we'd meet in 3 days. Isn't that today? Ashina nodded. That's why I rushed here overnight to pick you up. The caravan is already prepared over there, ready to set off at any moment. I have to go see Xiao Yunji. At the very least, I need to find out what this so-called evidence is. It's too dangerous. Xie Jingheng's army has already blocked all the exits in Liangju. That's why I need your help. Don't the Western region merchant caravans have special passage rights? He suddenly grabbed my shoulders. Come back to the Western region with me. No matter what evidence or grudges there are, they have nothing to do with you anymore. There, you will be free. Ashina has never looked at me with such eyes before. The vast deserts of the Western regions. The brilliant starry skies, they are truly captivating. No Xie Jingheng, no court disputes. I must know. I knew you would say that. He sighed. Let's go. The caravan is waiting. We arrived at the agreed location on horseback. But strangely, the surroundings were eerily quiet, with no sign of Xiao Yunji. Something's wrong, Ashina said warily, scanning the area. The merchant caravan should have been here by now. No sooner had the words been spoken than dozens of black-clad soldiers emerged from all directions, surrounding us completely. Ashina Lai of the Western region's merchant caravan, the leading officer said coldly, you are suspected of colluding with a fugitive from the Central Plains. By the Prime Minister's order, you are to be arrested immediately. How did Xie Jingheng's people know we were here? Xiao Yunji betrayed us, Ashina said in a low voice. His hand already resting on his curved blade. Impossible. If Xiao Yunji was truly the emperor's man, then he and Xie Jingheng. Before I could figure it out, Ashina drew his blade to face the fight, and I pulled out my dagger, standing back to back with him. I'll cover you, you break through. No, I can't leave you behind. Ashina suddenly turned around and kissed me hard on the lips. Remember, the Western regions will always be your fallback. After saying that, he pushed me away forcefully. I watched helplessly as 5 or 6 spears pointed at him simultaneously, powerless to do anything. Stop, it's me you want to arrest. Let him go, and I'll come with you. I stepped forward, otherwise, I pressed the dagger against my own throat. You'll only be able to bring back a corpse to Xie Jingheng. The commander's expression changed. Drop your weapon, everyone. Step back. Ashina struggled to rush forward. Qingshuang, don't do anything foolish. I shook my head at him and mouthed 3 words. Trust me. The soldiers made way, allowing them to confiscate my dagger and bind my hands. Sir, a troop is approaching from the west. Could it be Xiao Yunji? Take the prisoner and evacuate immediately. Leave 10 men to cover the rear. I was pushed onto the horse's back and took one last look at Ashina. He was pinned to the ground, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, yet he still stared at me intently. The sound of hoofbeats grew closer. Listen, men of the Prime Minister's residence, Xiao Yunji shouted loudly. By the Emperor's oral decree, Shen Qingshuang is to be escorted into the palace immediately. Without delay, the general looked troubled. Lord Xiao, I am acting under the Prime Minister's direct orders. The imperial decree is here. Those who defy it shall be executed. The two sides were at a standoff, ready for a fight. Shen Qingxuang. The emperor has promised that as long as you hand over the evidence, he will pardon you for the crime of faking your death. What's the difference between the emperor and Xie Jingheng? One wants to kill me, and the other wants to use me. The sound of hoofbeats came from the distance again. It was Xie Jingheng's main force. The Prime Minister has come in person. Xiao Yunji's expression changed. Qingxuang, decide quickly. Come with me, at least you'll survive. I watched the approaching army, then looked at Ashina who was being held captive, and finally turned my gaze to Xiao Yunji. Release Ashina, I said calmly. Let him and the caravan leave the central plains safely. Xiao Yunji frowned. Otherwise, I will end my life right now. No one will get the evidence. Let him go. The soldiers reluctantly released Ashina. He staggered to his feet. Qingxuang, go. I smiled at him. Remember to save the fastest camel for me. Maybe one day I'll come looking for you in the western regions. Ashina wanted to say something more, but he was pulled away by the caravan members. I watched their retreating figures, feeling as if a heavy weight had been lifted from my heart. Xie Jingheng's army had already arrived before us. Prime Minister, Xiao Yunji cupped his hands in salute. This humble official is following the emperor's command. I know, Xie Jingheng interrupted him. Go back and tell the emperor that Shen Qingxuang is my wife. I must see her alive or her body dead. He dismounted from his horse and walked step by step toward me. 3 months, and he seemed to have aged 10 years. Madam, have you had enough fun? I simply asked calmly. What if I said I haven't had enough? He gave a gentle smile. Then keep playing, but this time, don't run away again. I have been confined in the side courtyard for 3 days. Xie Jingheng arranged a spacious and bright room for me, with a meticulously maintained garden outside the window. 3 meals a day are prepared by a dedicated cook, and there is even a young maid to help me with washing and dressing. The only problem is that I cannot leave. I am like a caged golden canary, while he plays the role of a gentle and considerate master. On the evening of the 4th day, when Xie Jingheng pushed the door open again, I finally snapped. What do you want? If you're going to kill me, just get it over with. Xie Jingheng calmly surveyed the mess on the floor, crouched down, and began tidying up himself. Did the almond cakes not suit your taste today? I'll have them replaced with Osmanthus cakes tomorrow. Xie Jingheng, I'm already dead. The whole capital knows that the Prime Minister's wife has been laid to rest. What do you think you're doing by keeping me locked up here? He paused in his movements and slowly stood up. You ask me what I am. His voice was low. I'm an obsession, a refusal to accept, the one and only foolish mistake I, Xie Jingheng, have made in this lifetime. Don't touch me. Where's Su Wanru? Why aren't you going to her? She's in the dungeon. What? The day I married her, I locked her in the dungeon. For the past 3 years, I've neglected and distanced myself from you because the Empress Dowager's people have been watching the Prime Minister's residence closely. Xie Jingheng's voice lowered. The more I appeared indifferent to you, the safer you would be. I gritted my teeth and said, if what you're saying is true, prove it to me. Over the past 6 months, I've eliminated 12 of the Empress Dowager's trusted allies in the court. This only proves you're dealing with the Empress Dowager, not that you care about me. Shen Qingxuang, how do you want me to prove it? Do you want me to tear my heart out and show it to you? Let me go. Release me now. No. Why? Because it's more dangerous outside. Early the next morning, I was awakened by a frantic knocking at the door. When I opened it, it was Xiao Yunji. What are you doing here? There's no time to explain. Xie Jingheng has been summoned to the palace. This is your only chance to escape. Why should I trust you? Xiao Yunji urgently said. Xie Jingheng has been protecting you for the past 3 years. Even locking you up here is because the emperor has already sent assassins. Come with me. Xiao Yunji grabbed my hand. While Xie Jingheng is stalling the Empress Dowager, I'll take you out of the city. I hesitated. If what Xiao Yunji said was true, then if I left now, Qingxuang, he urged, there's no time. 3 years later, I sat on the rattan chair in front of the tavern, watching the sunset. A Huang yawned at my feet. This cat suddenly appeared at the tavern door 2 months ago. I gave it a bowl of lamb soup. and it has been sticking around ever since. Boss lady, another pot of wine. Coming, here. No one will scold me for being slow. People care more about whether the liquor is strong enough, not whether it's served quickly enough. A small merchant caravan is approaching the town. Riding the lead camel is a familiar Ashina, waving at me from afar. I smiled and shook my head. Ever since he escorted me here 3 years ago, he has been coming every half-month. Chingshuang. Ashina jumped off the camel. Where is that man from the Central Plains? He looked around casually. But I knew exactly who he was asking about. He went to the market. I pointed toward the east side of the town, said he wanted to buy some spices. Ashina curled his lips. He still hasn't left. I smiled without answering. He asked this question every time he came, as if hoping one day he would get a different answer. The tavern echoed with another round of urging. I stood up and called out to Ashina, "Come in. The newly brewed wine is just ready to drink." Ashina's eyes immediately lit up. And he followed me into the tavern. "Boss lady, you're missing a boss here," a drunken merchant shouted. "How about considering me?" Everyone burst into laughter. This had become a daily joke in the tavern. I skillfully rolled my eyes and poured Ashina a glass of wine. "Don't mind them." Ashina suddenly became serious. "Chingshuang, there's something you need to know." He lowered his voice. "Word from the Central Plains says the emperor is seriously ill, and Xiao Yunji has taken power." My hand trembled, spilling a few drops of wine on the table. "Xiao Yunji in power? Don't worry, he has already cleared Xie Jingheng's name. Now everyone in the Central Plains knows that the Prime Minister was framed by villains and had no choice but to leave the capital." I breathed a sigh of relief. By the way, Xie Jingheng also arrived a year ago. That night, after he knew I was safe, he and Xiao Yunji began making their plans, and Su Wanru is dead. What? They say she committed suicide out of guilt. Ashina shrugged. It was the Empress Dowager who silenced her. After the emperor fell seriously ill, the Empress Dowager's faction was almost entirely purged by Xiao Yunji. Although Su Wanru was detestable, she was merely a pawn in the power game. Now that the pawn has been discarded, the game continues. The doorbell chimed softly, and a figure walked in. Even in ordinary clothes, Xie Jingheng couldn't conceal his innate aura. "Oh, the Prime Minister is back," Ashina said loudly on purpose, his tone mocking. Xie Jingheng didn't even glance at him. He walked up to me, took out a small cloth bag from his chest, and said, "The cumin you wanted," and he pulled out a candied hawthorn stick. "I saw it on the way and remembered you like it." I took the candied hawthorn stick. It was a snack from the Central Plains, rarely seen in the western regions. Xie Jingheng must have gone out of his way to travel a long distance just to buy it. Ashina snorted. A dignified prime minister, now reduced to running errands to buy snacks. Xie Jingheng finally looked at him. "Still better than some people." "You," seeing that the two were about to argue again, I quickly interrupted. "Ashina, didn't you say the merchant caravan is in a hurry to set off?" Ashina glared at Xie Jingheng, reluctantly standing up. "It's time to go." He leaned close to me. "Next time, I'll bring you a better gift, much better than someone's candied hawthorn." I walked Ashina to the door. He mounted his camel and suddenly leaned down to whisper in my ear, "If he ever makes you sad again, let me know." I nodded with a smile, watching the merchant caravan disappear into the distance. When I turned back to the tavern, I found Xie Jingheng skillfully pouring drinks for the customers. Over the past year, he had learned all the tasks of the tavern: brewing, accounting, and even cooking. "Chingshuang," he suddenly spoke up, "I have something to tell you. Xiao Yunji has sent a letter. The emperor has passed away, and a new emperor has ascended the throne. We can return now." I took the letter but did not open it immediately. "Do you want to go back?" Xie Jingheng was silent for a moment. "I want to hear your thoughts. I like it here. The air is free, and the people are simple." After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.